How does Ayurveda define them?
For Ayurveda, everything runs on Vata, Pitta and Kapha. Space and air, they make Vata.
Okay.
Then fire and water, they are making Pitta. The third dosha called Kapha, made from water and earth. They are controlling our body. If not controlling, they are causing so many functions in the body.
Child is born.
Yeah.
Their prakriti is determined more or less at their janma.
Basic prakriti which you're born with,
Yes.
that is going to be there throughout your life.
Does that change?
No, it doesn't change, but your perception might change. This is pre-decided. You conceived how your parents' genes were, how your mother was taking care of herself during that time, or what kind of environment inside the uterus and the outside environment was affecting all that throughout all these months.
Fitting with the chronological ages that one has set.
Yeah, we can say that, but also divided in the population. Generally, in rural population, we don't see that.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's mostly the urban population because they're living the life very fast.
So the city people are aging faster.
Faster, yeah, we can definitely say that.
In most of our podcasts, you must have noticed I keep mentioning the words like Vata, Pitta, Kapha. What are these things? So these are the doshas or bioforce energies that exist in your body. But today we'll get to know how do they matter in the terms of Ayurveda, in our body sense, whether our diet, lifestyle, health, how can we arrange all of these together for you so that you understand whether these bioforce energies matter to you or not, how much of it determines how your life is going to be, and what are the ages that are associated with these particular doshas. Today we have Dr. Rajat Sharma, who's going to shed light on the presence of doshas in your body and how and why, at what age do they really determine how your life is going to be. Welcome, Dr. Rajat.
Thank you for having me here.
Dr. Rajat, first my listeners or my viewers would like to know what are these things? Vata, Pitta, Kapha. People use these terms very loosely in the Ayurveda sense. How does Ayurveda define them?
Well, for Ayurveda, everything runs on Vata, Pitta and Kapha, right? First of all, the words are Vata, Pitta and Kapha.
Okay.
Not Vata, Pitta and Kapha, because in English, that's okay, because our English listeners will also, not be able to say this as Vata, Pitta or Kapha, Vata, Pitta and Kapha, because they read it like that.
Yeah.
So original terms anyways are Vata, Pitta and Kapha. So everything runs on that.
Okay.
As in anybody whom you see, meet and greet or whatever, you see their form structure, right? There is a root to them, there is a structure that is defined by the dosha, specifically Kapha dosha, how they appear, right? You see their skin color, right? Either black, brown, dark, whatever. So this is also defined by Pitta or Pit, right? So this is giving you the color of the skin. And Vata gives you generally, like if I can say loosely again, it can give you what is the height of the individual, extremely long, extremely short or medium, like this, So these are the things which you start noticing about the individual already, right? So this is what Vata, Pitta and Kapha at the very basic level.
But what are these?
Yeah. So these are obviously what we call doshas. Dosha means which is not in balance at any given point of time. Now this can be a very controversial statement which we'll delve into later.
Okay.
But let's say these are the doshas which are never in balance. So they exist in a matrix where if they are doing their actions in this realm only, then they are okay. They will always be imbalanced.
Okay.
These are the bioenergies, forces, 3 in number, Vata, Pitta and Kapha, first of all. But where do they come from? So Ayurveda says there are 5 basic elements which makes the entire universe, hence us also, right? So Vata comes from ether and air. These elements exist, right? This is agreed by
ether and air.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when these two combine, they make Vata or air as we know it, right? So this exists in our body in different organs, tissues, cells, you name it, and Vata is there, right? Then the another combination came was fire and water, and this made our Pitta. right? So this also has the characteristics of fire and water. Right?
Okay.
Similarly, the combination came, which is Kapha from earth and water. So 5 basic elements coming together, making 3 bioforces, which run the whole show, either in terms of our body or even our diet, the food items. Everything falls under these categories, either 5 element or 3 doshas.
As I understood, Ayurveda, they say that there are certain seats of each dosha in the body.
Right.
Can you talk more about where, Vata dosha is predominantly, where Pitta dosha is, and where Kapha dosha is?
See, generally they are present, like I said, from even a minutest cell to the whole structure.
Sure.
But there are many seats specifically given to these. For example, if you closely observe, so Vata is generally what we say is main seat coming from the large intestine and the combination of small intestines, somewhere there, right? This is where the maximum air in our body is, residing. It also means that the solar plexus or the nervous system, which is coming from your spine, is almost active from here.
What are these concepts of Vata, Pitta, Kapha? What is it?
These are basically 3 doshas, as mentioned in Ayurveda. They come into existence when the 5 basic elements, they combine in different ratios. For example, space and air, they make Vata.
Okay.
5 basic element, 2 are making Vata. Then fire and water, they are making Pitta. Very weird combination. There's fire and water, but they're still making this. And then there is the 3rd dosha called Kapha, made from water and earth. Right? Now we call them bioforce for a reason, because they are controlling our body. If not controlling, they're causing so many functions in the body. That's why they are called bioforces. Why they are able to do this? Because from the elements, they are bringing these energies. For example, if you see Vata, as we said, it is coming from space and it will have the qualities of air. What does air do? It brings, for example, it pollinates, right? It brings one pollen from one flower to another flower, right?
Yeah.
There is movement, as we see from air, or some dust air carries from one place to another. Similarly, the Vata in our body, it brings or it controls or it helps travel the things from one place to another. Okay. For example, you eat something, right? So this is brought down from your mouth to your stomach by some force, which is called Vata.
Yeah.
So once it is digested, it is thrown out, the elimination, right? The excreta or stool, as we call it. It is under the control of Vata.
Okay.
So it helps in expel. Similarly, urine, like this, and similarly the menstrual flow as well, right? So these are very small examples of how you can see Vata, right? These are the physiological functions of Vata. But how you can see it in an individual as well. They obviously exist from a cell point of view. These Vata, Pitta, Kapha, they are in a cell also, but the whole individual is anyways made of it, right? So Vata individual, he'll appear very thin or very ungrounded individual. You might have seen, in your interaction with so many people.
Why does a Vata, and we'll get into the details of this, why does a Vata person appear thin or thinner than, other constitutions?
Because the air element brings its thinness, its wiriness, its roughness, its dryness, right, to that individual. So that's why they're always, ungrounded. Because air is chanchal, very mobile.
So by ungrounded, you mean easily excitable? Or
Easily excitable, always excitable, but at the same time, not able to complete the task given, right? So they will get into one task, not able to complete, they will go into another. Basically, many creative people, they fall under this category of, creativeness, because you need that energy for creation. And only Vata can give you that, right? Okay. So this is how you see them. Or they are generally, like, for example, constipated also.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So if Vata increases in a Vata individual already, then they tend to get constipated very easily.
Very easily.
Yeah.
And what about Pitta constitution?
So Pitta, again, made from fire elements. So what is fiery element does? It brings the metabolism to a very high level. So the metabolism is quite strong. So you'll always see them, hungry or thirsty. They're always eating a little, something, because their fire needs some satisfaction.
Yes.
Otherwise, it'll just burn them, right?
Yeah.
So they need that support always. So they're always drinking, they're always eating. For example, mentally, they're always very driven people, very not work alcoholic, we can't really say that, but very driven, very competitive. These kind of individuals we see. Or people with, red hair, or, their skin is also, reddish tinge. Like these are the things you can see in an individual when you can see, okay, this person is a Pitta dominated person.
All right.
And the build is also medium compared to Vata.
So Vata people are thinner frames.
Yeah, thinner in frames.
And Pitta people are more medium
frame.
frames.
Yes,
okay.
absolutely.
Are they tall, short? How
They're
do they
relatively,
look like?
again, go back to Vata. Either they're very tall or very short and thin, Vata people.
All right.
But for Pitta, medium works in every sense. So their height would not be even like really tall or really short. Everything in the middle frame, either body structure or the height.
I'm letting everybody know I'm a Pitta person. I'm very competitive, very driven. But yeah, that makes sense because a lot of your characteristics they match with your personalities, and like you talked about Vata personality and Pitta personality. How is it different from a Kapha personality?
Yeah, so Kapha personality is something, obviously, their characteristics are coming from the earth and water elements more, right? So they are very well formed, contrary to the belief that they are large. They are not large, they are very, very well built. Their bones, their muscles, they're very thick, properly formed. It's only when they eat a lot or their lifestyle becomes very sedentary, they become large. But in theory, they are very well divided people. Their torso, their legs, arms, everything will be well developed, very beautiful, people in general, and very stable people. If you give them the task, they will do it slowly, but they will complete the task.
So more stability, and they do work slow though.
Yeah. They
Slow.
do. Yeah. So we all know, these kind of people. You can easily identify.
Yeah.
Somebody who's driven. Okay, this is Pitta domination. And then if somebody is like always, fidgeting while sitting, or they were talking about one topic and suddenly they change the topic, like this. So this style of talking and behavior, that is Pitta domination, right? And for Kapha, slow but steady, and very grounding.
Very grounding
energies they have.
And I've seen that Kapha people are also very calm by nature. They don't get easily angered.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well
and they're
put.
usually very, cheerful and very soft-spoken people.
Very soft-spoken, absolutely. But that would not be seen in Pitta. Because they have fire, they will utter the very harsh, fiery words straight away,
Yes,
So, that's nothing to be judged upon. That is just how their elements are, and that's how their behavior is. This is where Ayurveda puts the importance. That, okay, your elements, these are your doshas, existing in everybody. It's not that, you are Vata dominant or Pitta dominant or Kapha dominant. The other doshas are not there. They're also there, but it's just generally their ratios are very different.
Yeah.
But now, after knowing this, you should be able to balance them through diet, lifestyle, or detox, whatever, the modalities Ayurveda has to offer.
So understand your doshas, understand your body type, your own body type of what dosha, predominant dosha you fit in. And then make your diet, lifestyle choices accordingly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you're a Vata person, you're easily excitable, maybe, tone down on the caffeine or, something that excites you too quickly. And a Kapha person, it might actually do a little better with caffeine as compared to a Vata person. But I've not seen a person ever who is fully one dosha.
Yeah.
How common is that you're only predominantly one dosha?
No, if we were to go by Ayurveda, there can't be a single, dosha person existing on earth. But whosoever exists on the earth, they have to be either two dosha mixture, dominance, or either three. It cannot, somebody cannot be only single dosha. It's just for our understanding to break it into simpler form, okay, Vata is looking like this, Pitta is looking like this, Kapha is looking like this. But there is always a nature's way of overlapping you and making you a unique individual of that ratio of Vata, Pitta and Kapha.
Right.
Yeah,
So, I've noticed that, and, correct me if I'm wrong, that the most common is, the two
those
dosha
Prakritis,
predominance.
yes.
So, I am a Pitta Vata.
Okay.
So, I have primarily Pitta, and then, I have about like 20% Vata or something like that. How does one understand their body better if they know that, should I always think about that I'm a Pitta, so I should take care of my body like a Pitta body type? Or should I also take care of the things that take care of the Vata part of my body?
Yeah, that's a very good question actually. What happens is that, especially Pitta, Vata and Vata, Pitta, Prakritis, their number of medical problems are always higher than the other combinations.
Yes.
So they need to take care, absolutely, one thing, of both the doshas. Right? Now it is in combination always. This is where you must raise your consciousness of understanding yourself and your spirit. Okay, this is Pitta season more, right? So then you take care of Pitta more in that area. If it is a Vata dominant season, if you are, let's say, Pitta and Vata person, and the season is of Vata, then you work towards more Vata.
Okay.
Because
maybe we'll come back to this because we're getting into a new concept of seasons. So we'll definitely come back to that because it needs a lot more understanding. But before we enter into the seasons, I want to understand that when a child is born, their prakriti is determined more or less at their jan.
Not more or less, that's 100%. That is the prakriti. Basic prakriti which you're born with.
Yes.
That is going to be there.
Throughout your life.
Does
that change?
No, it doesn't change, but your perception might change.
Towards your prakriti.
Yeah, like for example, I have had many patients who take online prakriti tests, right? Let's say the person took that test when the person was 20 years, 25 years old or whatever. Then he takes the test or she takes the test, let's say around 60 years old, right? So there is some difference then coming and people think my prakriti changed. But the prakriti itself means the nature. This is pre-decided, you conceived, how your parents' genes were, how your mother was, taking care of herself during that time, or what kind of environment inside the uterus and the outside environment was affecting all that throughout all these months. You come out and as an individual of those combinations, that is 100% there.
Yeah.
That's it. That's pre-decided now. You're born. Then after that, there is always a variable play in the matrix of Vata, Pitta and Kapha. So that is always going to be there according to your age, season and so forth.
I've heard this concept in Ayurveda that the first 25 years of your life or when you're growing up is a Kapha age. And then the middle age is sort of the Pitta age. And the last few years of your life is a Vata age. Explain that concept to me.
Well, that is also to somewhat correct information, but there are some variations in these things, right? For example, there is a period from 0 to 16 years. That's called Balyavastha.
Okay.
Which is childhood years, right? So people generally think that's more of a Kapha age, right? But not necessarily true. Yes, Kapha is there, but there is always a play of Vata. That's why you see children so hyperactive.
Okay.
So chanchal. Chanchal is a word for we use for somebody who is very mobile in some loose term, if we can say. And you see children the most mobile. If you see an individual, he'll be the most mobile when he's a child.
Yes.
He's like jumping on the sofas, beds, and playing and like this, and at one point of time the child is doing something and then another times doing something.
Yeah.
So there is that element of Vata there, but at the back end of this is what you see, but at the back end of the child is growing. So that is the play of Kapha where it is causing the child to get all the assimilations, all the nutrients from the food and creating a structure where, muscles are growing, the bones are growing, head becoming bigger or whatever. I mean, the height is, growing.
So Kapha dosha, because it's made up of earth and water
element. Yeah.
is basically responsible for every solid thing that your body is made of.
Yes.
Like the bones, your muscles,
Yes.
your tissues, everything is
Which
made
you
up
see
of-
basically,
Yes,
which you can see.
whatever we can see,
Yeah.
is basically made out of kapha dosh, and that is where kids require that dosha to be predominant during that time for them to grow
yeah.
properly,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that they're longer or they're healthier. So what would you recommend? This is a very prime age for kids growing. That's the kind of individuals they will become
Yeah.
eventually.
Yeah.
So what's your recommendation for this particular age?
Yes, so very important again. See, first you have to understand what Ayurveda is saying in terms of the food.
Yeah.
So what they're saying is that up to 6 months, he has to be kshirad. It's a Sanskrit term. It means the child remains on milk diet.
Up to 6 months, only breast milk?
Yeah.
Okay.
I hope
breast
so,
milk
because
or whatever.
No, the
option
best
for the
milk
mother.
is the breast milk. Obviously, it has to be given. Otherwise, children who were not fed breast milk earlier in their childhood, they go on to develop this intestinal problems, especially IBS, ulcerative colitis, and these kind of things, or even generally lower immunity to either food or season, or even stress.
Yeah. So just to prove your point, because Western science and modern research has also stressed on the importance of breast milk during the initial years. Rather, WHO recommends that one should be breastfed for at least 2 years, the first 2 years of their life. But Ayurveda recommends that the minimum of 6 months, and then the mother and the child can decide what's best for them.
No, not really. After that, after 6 months, then you are starting a newer, concept of food then.
Yes.
That is introduction of diet which is apart from this milk.
Okay.
So for 6 months, yes, you have given the breast milk exclusively on that diet.
Yeah.
Then you're slowly introducing other things.
And this is what Ayurveda says, that
Yes.
till 6 months breast milk, and then you...
No, after that, breast milk plus other
plus
kinds,
solids.
plus solid also in a way where they are describing, one is khadya, one is pitta, one is leya. Okay, these are the, now again, there's some Sanskrit terms, but very easily explained. Khadya means which you can chew, right? So the child would not be able to. So that's out of the picture. Then there is pitta and leya. Okay, something which you can drink, and something which you can lick also, right? So you make a child have some, let's say, fruits, mash them, and you can start feeding the child. Okay. A mixture of that. But that sanskar, it's called a ritual basically. A sanskar is a ritual. Annaprasan.
Yeah.
So it has to be a ritual which is obviously celebrated, but has to be kept in mind that child needs to be easily transitioned into that. It should not be like that the first day you feed the child, because there can be a lot of love coming from so many people.
Yeah.
So that's why this was kept as a ceremony, and in a proper manner the food was given to the child.
Yeah. So this was about a little kid growing up. What do you suggest for in general toddlers or kids who haven't reached their teenage?
So they should get massage regularly with Lakshadi Keram. That's the particular oil which they can use. After 10 years of age, they should be given some kind of grit, like ghee, medicated ghee like Brahmi and all that.
For their mental and brain development.
Yeah. All these things. Obviously they are growing, so they should be given fresh organic food. Lots of fruits there, curd, milk, everything, because bones will also need their calcium. So these kind of food items are very good for the children generally.
All right.
So after 16 to 20, then it's a kind of a teenage, all the hormones everywhere.
Do you recommend milk to growing kids?
Yes.
Okay.
Especially up to 10 years, around that time, they're still able to digest that milk. Sugar, so they should be definitely given that, because after that sugar will go away from the body slowly, right? So they should be fed that.
Anything for teenagers?
Teenagers, well, they should be since their hormones are everywhere, then pitta is really, really high, they should have some calming activities during the day, along with those kind of foods where they are not eating a lot of sour and spicy food.
So sour and spicy food should be avoided by teenagers,
Yes.
especially during that phase.
Yeah, and I see the general practices these days that the teenagers are eating food which is mostly coming from packets.
Yes.
And that is really increasing their Pitta and Vata. And hence you see them not in balance.
Yes.
Right? They anyways are not able to express what's going on in their body. And if you're putting along with like not proper nutrition, then it's just a fire plus fire.
So cooling and calming diet as well as activity will really help your teenagers during this phase. And after teenage, you have this age of being a young adult.
Yeah.
How does Ayurveda handle that?
So Ayurveda is saying that Pitta dominance takes over during this time.
From
Hence,
Kapha?
Yeah, from Kapha generally.
When does that happen? During what age?
Let's say we can say after 16 it starts happening.
Okay.
Pitta is abruptly very high till 20, and then it starts to be like it's still there, but it starts to combine with other elements also, where you're coming out of the teenage and then maturing into adult. Yeah. Right? So that's where the things kind of stabilize, but still very much Pitta driven, and hence you as an individual from the society are expected to
go out and work.
Yeah, go out and work and be the coolie of the world. Because this is the age where you can give the maximum.
Yeah.
So your dhatus, your tissues are growing and can support, you have the strength, man or woman or whatever. So this is the time where you're expected to work, and you anyways are self-driven, you have the energy, at least till 40, there is sampurnata, as Ayurveda says, coming from there. And then, Pitta is generally very high, you support yourself, exercise good, sleep good, so important. Yes, you work, but these two things are strong pillar. But at the same time, the brahmacharya, the celibacy, in terms not just in terms of sexual activities, but in terms of mentally also cutting down on so many wants and desires in life. Yes, you work, there are desires and all those things. Keeping everything in balance is the key during that time.
So this is quite contrary to what exactly is happening in your life. So you're going out there, you do want to, achieve quite a lot. You want to earn money, you want to get a house, you want to get a car. And you were saying at that time, I should actually try to stay away from desires. Is that what you're saying?
You won't be able to, first of all.
So this is where Maya comes in?
Yeah, this is where Maya... No, see, I always say capitalism is kind of driven by Pitta.
That's true.
But on a serious note, it is about, yes, fire is going to be there, the Pitta is going to be there. It is about how smartly you're able to control it and use it to your advantage. So that's why the consciousness is so important. That this needs to be assimilated. All these things you need for your comfort or whatever. But when not to overstep that is the key there.
Okay.
You will be drawn because your peers and the whole system around the globe is such that you have to have so much of whatever materialistic things or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's where the smartness comes. Okay. You do the work and all those things which is society now expecting, because you have assimilated by Kapha. The society has given you the Kapha, all the care from the school and from parents or whatever, from the food. You have taken that. Now you are really working, bending your back, working hard. That's a Pitta age. So
and when does this convert into the last age of life, when we're turning old?
Yes, so then comes the age of 40 to 60, which is kind of called parihani. This is where the things kind of get stabilized. Pitta is there, but slowly the Vata would also start coming. Again, a very important age, because there will be sharp decline in your energy. The way you do things. Hence you see, from 20 to 40, you feel like I can conquer the world. But from 40 onwards, a little bit, the energy goes down. You do the things in a certain way, the ways are set. So that's where the things which were boiling to that point start to cool down. And this is where you actually, many people also say, you do the most productive in hours. Earlier you were doing just work, now it's more focused and more productive work. during these years from 40 to 60.
So you're saying 40 to 60, but I know that I feel, since my 30s, I have started feeling that I've aged like all of a sudden.
Yeah.
I know that, this is, nowadays aging is happening much more sooner. But
Yes.
do you see that in your patients that, they are coming, the teenage, these Ayurvedic times of life that you're saying, they're not really fitting with the chronological ages that one has set?
Yeah, we can say that. We see that in our patients, absolutely, but also divided in the population. Generally, in rural population, we don't see that.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's mostly the urban population because they're living the life very fast.
So the city people are aging faster.
Faster, yeah, we can definitely say that because the kind of stress the entire city brings upon you is something which you may not even realize.
Yeah.
Because you don't have the access to good quality nutrition, food, okay? And then you're not eating on the time when you're supposed to, right? And the way you're supposed to eat
Yes.
is also not there. What will happen? I mean, you are not supported by nature anyways, right? And then you're not able to exercise also in the way it should be, right? So everything then comes a little earlier. We see that, so many young people getting heart attacks, white hair, or, all those early
Signs of aging.
signs of aging are there,
Yeah.
definitely.
So, in my mind, I'm thinking that, okay, if the Pitta is, we started with Kapha growing up, then there's a Pitta age where we're driven and, we want to be driven really quickly, we want to achieve and do whatnot in this world. And then comes, the Pitta starts cooling down and the Vata age starts coming in.
Yeah, so that would ideally happen around the age of 60 and beyond. This is Vriddhavastha.
So, okay. So 60 and beyond is where you fully Vata age,
Sets in.
the Vata is that combination of dryness or air and
Yeah, you can very
space.
well understand, like for example, Vata dries out your bones. You see osteoporosis. It takes out the calcium. There is porosity,
Yeah.
right?
So
there is
weaker
dryness in the
joints,
skin.
weaker bones.
Weaker bones, loose teeth, whatnot.
Because
right?
Vata is at its full force.
Full force, yeah, absolutely.
And how does that, is our body designed like that it knows now, that the Vata age is coming, or is that the natural evolution of a body from birth to death? Is that how it happens?
Yeah, this will happen. This is a natural evolution.
For
Definitely.
everyone.
Yeah, see, you are in a phase of anabolism, right? You're gaining. You have gained. Now the circle of life will bring you down in terms of reducing your metabolism. So the catabolism starts in, your muscles starts wearing away, your bones start getting brittle, thinner, you lose hair and you lose eyesight.
Yeah.
All these things. That's very natural. That will happen. But the idea is knowing all these things, how you age gracefully, that is the trick.
So how do we age gracefully with Ayurveda?
Very simple. Just keep following diet, lifestyle, and keep doing panchkarma all the way along. According to your doshas, what kind of diet you should be eating, what kind of lifestyle you should be doing, and panchkarma at different stages of life. A doctor can decide upon that. Keep doing that, and you will age gracefully, even with a lot of vitality.
Yeah. But is there anything specific that I can do that I'm noticing my aging, मुझे बहुत body aches होने लगे हैं, या फिर I just don't feel like I'm flexible anymore? What does Ayurveda recommend?
Ayurveda says oleate yourself. Apply oil,
Okay.
Ayurveda oils. There are many different kind of oils according to your doshas. Doing abhyanga or massage regularly, or take panchkarma detox therapies in which there are certain kind of enemas which help you with a lot of strengthening with the joints and the body in general, get rid of the pains, and flexibility of the body improves a lot. Post that, make sure that you do yoga regularly. Even yoga can be anti-aging,
Yeah.
Even the diet which you eat in a certain manner can also give you anti-aging properties.
Yes.
There are
So
lots of
eat-
fruits, are also something which somebody can look up to.
So eat your diet according to your dosha, have your
Yes.
lifestyle according to your body type.
Yes.
And oleate or put a lot of oil when you're reaching that Vata age. If you're noticing a lot of aging signs, dryness in your joints or
No, even sleeplessness. After 60, you hear all the oldies.
Yes.
They're saying I can't sleep. So applying specifically oil on feet while going to sleep will really help them sleep better.
what oil?
Generally cured sesame oil, but then there are so many other oils like Mahanarayan oil, or Mahavishkar oil, as per the joint pain or whatever. Vata oil also. So these can really help you relax and sleep into much better quality.
अभी तक हमने सिर्फ बात करी between the body types and the age that they come in, these doshas come in more predominantly in our life. How is the difference between men and women, especially for aging?
Yeah, so specifically, at the age of 10, the lady is called Rajaswala. Okay, and the age of, let's say, 45, or in some ladies it could be even later. So then they are called Ritu Nivrit. So this is where the menopause is coming in, right? And a lot of Vata Pitta increases. So again, Chandan Bara Lakshadi oil that you really, put your body on, and Rasayana therapies like Shatavari and all, that should be given. So
this is at the age of 10?
No, this is at the age of menopause.
At the age of menopause?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So at the age of menopause, you're saying that it'll be good if women start a Rasayana therapy, and Shatavari is one of the Rasayanas in Ayurveda. And you're saying also something like Kerams, coconut oil massage.
Yes.
Okay.
So these are also helpful in bringing, hot flushes down and supporting the body in general, making the bones stronger, because they will get weak, specifically around menopause. So very important.
Anything for men?
Men, yeah. So there is a thing called andropause also, in some fancy term if you want to label it. But in general, their sexual capacity or physical capacity goes down. Let's say after 40, it's now starting to happen even earlier. So they must compensate it by taking, rasayanas like ashwagandha, gokshur, shilajit, all these things, which can help maintain their vitality and fervor in the body, and give back to the society.
There's a lot of controversy around shilajit.
Yeah.
What do you think that should men take it after a certain age? Is it good, bad, ugly?
There is no controversy as per Ayurveda in Shilajit. It's just the body's need. It's not like you have to take it. It is how much your body has aged. According to that, there are different kind of rasayanas. You take, for example, amlaki or amla. If you take it regularly, or chavanprash, even for that matter, amrit kalash kind of rasayanas. If you keep taking them, then at least your biological aging is in somehow arrested. Yeah. So these kind of things, you keep them taking anyways. If still there are some things lacking in the body, like, okay, there is weakness felt in the joints, or there is sexually, like, you don't feel the energy, or the strength is not there, yes, you're welcome to take Shilajit. But then again, it comes with its own set of rules how to take Shilajit, which
you can ask a Vaidya, how to take Shilajit, and whether you're it's good for you or not, it's good for your body type or not. But I do know that Shilajit varies, the quality varies quite a lot. So make sure you take it from a good source.
Yeah, very important.
It's very important for you to take proper Shilajit from proper places. I think this is quite a good summation of how one should live their life, and always live life according to your body type. Make sure that you understand what Vata, Pitta and Kapha stand for. Determine your Prakriti, talk to a Vaidya, take a Dosha quiz, do what not to understand your own body, and determine what stage of life does your body need to adjust for. Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and understand the value of Maharishi Ayurveda in your life. Jai Gurudev.